Hey folks, welcome back to the Rupedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta. And today again we will continue with the appointment and remuneration of managerial personnel. Right? So far we have dealt a lot in this chapter, right? We are heading towards the end of the chapter. Right, as we started with section 196 and we know that we have the entire chapter expanding over to the sections till 205. Right? So we have done up to section 202 so far, and today we head ahead to the next section that we have, right? The next section is appointment of the key managerial personnel, and this is section 203 of the Companies Act 2013, right? Now, there are a lot of things that we need to understand when we discuss about the section 203, right? We are talking about appointment. Appointment of whom? Appointment of a key managerial personnel. Now, first of all, what we need to understand is who is a key managerial personnel, right? So, first of all, you understand that there is a mandate for appointment of key managerial person in certain companies, right? So, first, when we understand who key managerial personnel are, then we see that the key managerial personnel will either be a managing director or a chief executing officer or a manager, or in their absence, a whole-time director. And they'll also have a company secretary and a chief financial officer, right? So every company who belongs to a certain class of company that has been prescribed, we'll see what is prescribed, right? So the companies that belong to such class, right, as may prescribed, shall have these people into their key managerial post. A company secretary has to be there, a chief financial officer, CFO, CS, and then either an MD, manager, or whole-time director, or a chief executive officer, CEO. Right? So whenever you go to a company and you meet these people, understand they are the key managerial personnel of the company. Now, what are the classes of company that has been prescribed where the appointment of key managerial personnel is a mandate? So this has actually been taken forward by Rule 8. Rule 8 of the company's appointment and remuneration of managerial personnel rule 2014. So there are two classes of companies that has been specified as per Rule 8. They say that every listed company, the companies that are listed, the shares that are listed on the stock exchange, right? Every listed company plus every other public company who have paid up share capital of more than 10 crores, more than or equal to, right? So that is the limit. You do not need all the companies to appoint all these key managerial personnel people, right? It's not necessary for all big companies also. So what it says, what the rule 8 says, that okay, if you are a listed company, understand you're a listed company, there are a lot of rules, regulations lying on you, and if you're listed means you're huge, big at least. So you can afford and you should have all these three people, because a company secretary is a mandate in a listed company anyways, right? They have a lot of secretarial compliance work to be done, and that will be done by a practicing company secretary, right? So a listed company plus, if they go on to other public company, they're not talking about any private company, mind you, right? So in a private company, if it's your and my company, right, it's just to you and me, there's no more key managerial personnel, so what required, right? But it's a public company and they have a capital of over 10 crore, then it's reasonable to appoint a key managerial person. If the capital is less than even 10 crores, I don't think anything is required. That's a very small company, right? Next, you have a mandate to appoint a whole-time company secretary in certain cases as well, right? And that has been defined by Rule 8A, right? So Rule 8A actually of the company's appointment and remuneration of managerial personnel Rule 2014, right? It says that a company shall have a whole-time secretary if there are conditions. But when they talk about the company, over here they're talking about both public as well as private, right? And they say if they are not covered in rule number 8, that means listed companies are already covered, public over 10 crore are covered. Now they are talking about private companies and the public company below 10 cr of capital. Do you understand? So rule 8A says that okay, amongst those smaller companies which are below 10 crores in the public sector and which are private limited companies. So in those segment also, if there is a company whose paid up share capital is 5 cr or more, we would ask them to hold a company secretary, to keep a company secretary, right? Understand, if you look at it, what do they say? That in a public company, 5 crores and plus company secretary. Private company also 5 crore and plus 5 crores of the paid up share capital. then they have to have a company secretary. Don't you think why didn't they give the limit of the public in Rule 8 itself? That okay, all public company with 5 CR limit, 5 CR paid up share capital will appoint, because this is where I want to focus on the difference, right? In rule number 8, they're talking about all the three key managerial personnel. They're not talking about just one, right? They're talking about the CFO, the CS, and the CEO or MD or manager or whole-time director, whatever you call, or whatever position you give, right? And when they come to Rule 8A, Rule 8A is only talking about the company secretary. That a company secretary has to be there if your capital is over 5 CR, or whatever category you are. Got the point? Next, a chairperson not supposed to be an MD or CEO except in certain cases, right? So what are those certain cases? So if I look at the case, right? So any individual, if you look at the appointment point of view from the company, then any individual shall not be appointed as a chairperson of the company, right? Whatever given in the article of the company or wherever, who is the chairperson will not also be a managing director or a CEO of the company at the same time. There are two conditions. Unless the article of such company provides otherwise, that means if the article says that they'll have, that means they'll have. Or the company does not carry on multiple business. Means if the company is carrying on multiple business, then yeah, you can have an MD over here, a chairperson over there, a chairperson in third business, whatever you can go on. There are multiple businesses, right? You need different people to take care of different businesses. But where they don't carry on multiple businesses, plus article does not provide anything like that, then you will not have a chairperson as well as a managing director in the same company. But where can you have them? Where can you have both of them together? First case, that the company is engaged in multiple businesses. So to handle different businesses, you have different people. So you have a chairperson managing one business, a managing director managing another business, somebody else managing third business, somebody else managing fourth business, whatever it be. So in these situations, you're allowed, right? Second, if it has appointed one or more chief executive officer for each of the business, right? They're engaged in multiple business, and for each of the business, they have a CEO, and that company belongs to the company which is notified by the central government. If a company notified by central government, then this rule will not be applied on them. Then they can have a chairperson as well as a managing director at the same time. Now, what did central government notify is again something we need to see, right? So in July 2014, central government came up with a notification, right, for this purpose. So what they said that for this purpose, public companies which have a paid up share capital of rupees 100 crores or more and whose annual turnover, and right, it's not all, and its annual turnover is rupees 1000 crore or more, then they are the notified companies. So in that company, they can have a chairperson and a managing director at the same time, right? The paid up share capital and the annual turnover, right? That shall be decided on the basis of the latest already audited balance sheet. That means the previous year balance sheet that has been audited will be referred for that to check whether turnover or capital has reached the limit. If yes, then you can have both of them in the same company, right? Next, we also need to see the manner of appointment of a whole-time key managerial person, right? So if you can see on the screen, the appointment of key managerial person shall be at the board meeting only. That means obviously who is passing the resolution? The board, right? So every whole-time key managerial personnel of the company shall be appointed by means of a resolution which is passed in the board, right? And the board resolution shall specify when they're appointing those people, right? They'll specify the remuneration that is to be given to them. And they'll also specify the other terms and conditions on which they are appointed, right? But when they say that it shall be appointed at the board meeting only, so they don't indicate that they'll be appointed by the board of directors. No, because they'll be appointed by board of directors. But what do they indicate by saying that they will be appointed in the board meeting only is that you cannot pass a resolution by circulation. If you remember, there's a concept of resolution by circulation. So you circulate the entire details and all the backup to all the directors and you say, okay, from there give me a resolution. No, you will have to conduct a meeting for that. It's an important decision, man. You're appointing the key managerial personnel. You cannot just take it lightly and just roll away those documents to their places. They'll read and give their consent. No, you will have to hold a valid meeting for that, right? He should be a key managerial person in one company only or in subsidiary of such company. Yes. So what are the number of companies in which a person can be a whole-time key managerial person? It's only one, right? Key managerial person, they're whole-time generally, right? So generally when they're whole-time, how can they give their whole time in two different places? It is not quantum jumping, right? It's not parallel universe where they're traveling. Neither Are they duplicating themselves like that? Right? So the number of companies in which a person can be a whole-time key managerial person at one point of time is just one. But yeah, by in that case, they can also be key managerial person for the subsidiary companies, right? Because okay, they can manage both of them. It's a subsidiary of the same, but they cannot be a key managerial person, a whole-time key managerial person into different companies altogether. And there is no restriction on this key managerial person from being a director elsewhere. Why? Because directors, they do not need a whole-time director specifically. Director, executive, non-executive. Lot of criteria for directorships are there, right? So if you are a key managerial person in one company, you can be on the board of some other company as a non-executive director, right? What the act says is that yes, you are allowed to be a director in other companies, but not a key managerial person in another company, because key managerial person has a lot of responsibility on him, right? If it's a CEO of the company, right, the entire company is on his shoulder. The entire company is on his shoulder. Now, I don't know why when I talk about these kind of people, right, people at this stature in life, I feel proud about them. At the same time, I feel pity for them. No, I'm talking logics. I'm talking logics, right? Because many of you, after clearing your CA, you'll be going ahead to that direction, right? What am I proud about is that they have struggled for their life, right, in this competitive environment, right, and reached the top. One person to reach the top, because there are a lot of competitions in your company itself at every band, right? They managed to excel. So, respect. But what will happen 2 to 3 years down the line? 2 to 3 years down the line, these people will retire. And whatever they did for their entire life is gone in vain. Unless and until I'm talking about a government company, okay, then there are a lot of incentives, but in a private company, it's all gone in vain. So it's respect and pity at the same time. It's a mental state of dilemma as to where a person wants to be. Okay, nevertheless, let's move on. So no restriction on a key managerial person from being a director. Right, hold directorship, at least give some suggestions, earn some more money from there. You need to support your retirement also, right? Provisions with respect to existing companies, if I understand. So not this. So when this act came into operation, right, from the date it was applicable, if prior to that you were a key managerial personnel in more than one company, what should be done? But now that act has been applied. What do you think will happen? Right? So any whole-time key managerial person who is holding office in more than one, two, three companies at the same time, as on the date when the act was commenced, right? Then from that date, when the act was commenced in next 6 months, you have to decide as to which company will you hold the position as a key managerial personnel. Just decide, take a decision, and hold that position and leave the rest before you are kicked out of all of them. Right? Before you get disqualified, just let loose the rest of the companies. Choose one and be with that company. Now, if we talk about being a managing directorship in not more than one other company, can you highlight the word other? Yes, not more than one other company. Means you can be in one other company, right? So a company, they may appoint a person in its managing director position, right? But there are certain conditions that they need to check. You can talk about appointing or employing or whatever. There are certain conditions that you need to check, right? First thing is that they should not be, or that person should not be a managing director or a manager of any one and not more than one other company. It means you can be a managing director or a manager in any one other company, but not more than one, right? And such appointment or employment is based on the approval of the board, right? So in the board meeting, you'll pass a resolution, but this is not an ordinary resolution. Over here, you require the consent of every member. So all the directors who are present in that meeting and voting, right, they will all be consenting on the appointment or employment of this managing director, right? And when you are calling out the meeting of the board, right, then when you circulate the notice, then to move the resolution, you will mention this over there. So a specific notice has to be given for such kind of board meeting, that all of you who are there, we will need all of you to vote. If all of you vote in one direction, that guy will be appointed. Now, vacancy of key managerial personnel in the to be filled by the board meeting only, filled up in the board meeting only, and within 6 months. Long time given, huh? Right? So if the office of the whole time managerial personnel falls vacant at any point of time, right? Then the vacancy that has been resulted will be filled up by the board. And again, like the initial appointment, even this will be conducted in a, or this decision will also be taken up in the board meeting itself, right? And this entire procedure has to be completed within 6 months from the date of such vacancy of office. So that is all about the key managerial personnel. Three categories of people, as I've already discussed. CS and CEO has to be there. CFO has to be there. Apart from that, you can have a managing director, CEO, manager, or a whole-time director also, right? It will be in two kinds of companies: listed companies, public companies over 10 crore capital, and public company who are in the bandwidth of 5 to 10 crore capital, they will have to employ a company secretary. And other companies also, any company who has a paid up share capital of more than 5 crore will have to have a company secretary. When I say any company, just don't go and pull out something from the bottom of the earth and say, hey, this is also one category of company, you say it will happen. No. Listed, public, private. Okay, disclaimer. Right? And then you know the appointment, how it take place and what are the positions they hold. And that is it. Now, about the key managerial personnel, the entire topic ends here, right? And next are the remaining two sections that we need to take up, which is 204 and 205. And 204 deals with the secretarial audit for bigger companies. And 205 deals with the function of the company secretary. So you saw the company secretary we have appointed as key managerial personnel. Now into the 205, we will discuss about the functions of the company secretary. So I'll see you guys in the next lecture where I'll be discussing that. So until then, this is Abhinay Gupta signing off. Thank you. Bye bye.